All right, 2.3. Okay, this is the final one for chapter 4, at least part 1. Okay, we'll be looking at the second half of chapter 4, part 2, sometime next week. Life under slavery. Okay, that is the focus of this video. We want to talk real briefly about what we did in class for Life Under Slavery 2.3. Okay, so our target was to learn how enslaved Africans retained their culture and traditions under slavery. And we opened up the textbook and we highlighted a few details, and I'll go over some of those here with you in this video. But more importantly, here's how you know that you understand life under slavery, because you'll be able to explain slaves' lives under slavery by describing the causes and effects. And this is what should be turned into Schoology, okay, by the end of the week. So we want to know some of the causes, and I'm going to give you some of those in just a moment, and we want to know their results, okay? So it'll probably have more than 3 boxes on each side. Take a look. Now, as you look at this slide, okay, and if you don't have access to this slide, you need to copy it from the student copy, and you can find the student copy over in Google Classroom. Now, I've identified, okay, several causes, okay, more than several, quite a few causes here. And I would like to see most, if not all of them, on your thinking map. But I know that some of you 8th graders are just going to put this as your answer, okay? And this is not what I'm looking for. If you do that, then your thinking map will be incomplete. Instead, in addition to some of these clues for the causes, also give a description, okay? So if you completed the escape room, you know that an overseer was a person who managed the slaves, was normally a white Southerner who was hired by the plantation owner or could have been related to the plantation owner. And they oversaw all of the slaves and made sure that they were working sun up, sundown. You all also in the escape room looked up a picture of the overseer, okay? And that kind of suggested, especially, the picture that you all found, most people said they found somebody with a whip and they were beating the slaves and stuff like that. So you can infer or make a guess that the overseer was very harsh toward the slaves. That would be a result. So the living conditions for the slave must have been very harsh, very difficult under the overseer. And then we also learned about drivers. And we know that drivers were slaves themselves, but had some type of influence over a small group of slaves given to them by the plantation owner. And they worked with very small groups. There was probably a relationship between the slave and his small group, but they also made sure that those slaves were working. Special favors, so probably a little less harsh, okay, but not in all situations. Okay, and last but not least, at least for this video, because I think these first 3 you should, I'm going to help you through, and then the rest of these you should be able to find in the reading. You want to give a description of the household work. So from our reading and from the escape room, we know that slaves did not have choices, but they either worked in the field or they worked in the house. And so when we read that a particular paragraph, we know that it was less frustrating in the house. Okay. If you compare it to working out in the field, sun up to sundown with a very small break, it was certainly easier than that. So the effect on slaves' living conditions is that it was a lot easier. Not easy work, but certainly not as hard as working in the fields. So you would continue with these, giving a description. Let this short little description that you add, Okay. And I would encourage you to add your descriptions in a different color. Okay. Because you're adding to this side, to the causes. I give you a hint as to where to look, what to look for in the reading. You give a description, let that serve as your cause. And then determine the effects that it would have on the slave's living conditions. Okay. If I bring up the book here, let's take a look. Okay. You see household. We did household. We did enslaved women. Okay. The E represents some of the effects. Okay. And the C here represents some of the causes. And so we went through and we did that. And you will do that for the rest of the reading. Okay. Now, I didn't get to acts of rebellion. That's something that students did on their own, but you should be able to read these two paragraphs. And let's see. What were some ways that they resisted slavery? And then when they resisted, what did it look like? What was the result? And then the Stono Rebellion. Okay. You can explain what that rebellion was and how the colonists reacted, what laws popped up as a result of the Stonewall Rebellion, and you put that in. You can pause here to get the summary, and then that's it. Now remember, your notes are extra credit. Okay, you are turning in the thinking map. That's what you're turning in. Okay, and if you would like to use these notes on a future test or quiz, I would make sure that you have them handy. And then if you ever need a grade boost, make sure that you have your notes ready to turn in so you can receive some extra credit.